Before you scroll away, listen carefully, because this may explain the one connection you still cannot shake. Not the one that was convenient, not the one that looked perfect from the outside. I mean the one that changed something deep inside you and never gave it back. Some people enter your life and leave only a memory, something you can place in the past and eventually move beyond. But others arrive like a turning point. They awaken a part of you that had been asleep for years, and after meeting them, nothing feels quite the same again. You can call it timing, fate, or simply a life lesson. Whatever name you choose, your heart already knows this was never something ordinary. If you have been trying to move forward while something inside you keeps turning back, stay with this, because this is where the story becomes deeper. There are moments in life when someone appears and the idea of coincidence feels too small to explain what happened. You try to look back and organize every detail into a logical story, hoping it will finally make sense. Yet somewhere inside you, you already know that logic was never leading this experience. This person did not simply enter your world. They arrived carrying meaning, emotional weight, and a purpose your mind may still be trying to understand. From the moment they became part of your life, something shifted inside you in a quiet but lasting way. It did not require dramatic moments or perfect words to become meaningful. You felt it in your body, in your thoughts, and in the subtle way your inner world began changing after meeting them. Even now, while telling yourself the chapter is over, there remains a gentle pull you cannot completely ignore. It is not panic, obsession, or desperation. It is something steadier, something familiar that continues bringing your attention back without force. That pull does not exist because you are weak. It exists because part of you recognizes that this connection touched a place ordinary experiences rarely reach. The most important moments in life often arrive when something inside us is finally ready to awaken. Perhaps that is why these words have found you now. Perhaps some quiet part of you is beginning to notice what it once overlooked. Within you, there is a quiet knowing that refuses to disappear no matter how hard you try to reason your way past it. That is what deserves your attention. Temporary emotions fade. Illusions eventually fall apart. But what is genuine has a remarkable way of returning until it has been fully understood. If these words feel familiar, continue listening because they may explain why this connection still lives inside you. Right now, you may feel divided. One part of you wants to protect your peace, let go, and move forward without looking back. Another part cannot deny what was awakened, what was experienced, and what still feels unfinished. You continue living your life while quietly carrying a question your mind has never been able to answer. Perhaps you have wondered whether you imagined everything or gave meaning to something that was never truly significant. But if it had only been imagination, time would have softened it. Distance would have blurred it. Silence would have allowed it to disappear. Yet something remains, quietly returning in unexpected moments. That persistence is what makes it difficult to dismiss. This connection has endured not because your mind wanted another story, but because it reached a deeper part of you that recognizes truth before words can fully explain it. That truth does not demand attention. It waits patiently. It rises during quiet moments. It appears in dreams, unexpected memories, or sudden emotions that reach your heart before your thoughts have time to interpret them. Some people enter our lives not simply to stir emotions, but to transform us. They open inner doors that cannot easily be closed again, regardless of how much time passes or how far life carries us. Once those doors have opened, life rarely returns to exactly what it was before. That is why what you are feeling may not be ordinary attachment. Obsession is loud. It demands answers immediately and refuses to rest. What you may be carrying feels different. It is quieter, deeper, and more patient. It remains beneath the surface, gently returning whenever life becomes still enough for you to hear your own heart again. Feelings like these often grow from something that reached your deeper self rather than from passing desire. There is something else many people misunderstand. Silence from another person does not automatically mean the absence of emotion. Sometimes it means the emotion has become so overwhelming that they no longer know how to respond to it. Some people carry their deepest feelings behind calm behavior. They step back not because they feel nothing, but because they feel too much and struggle to remain emotionally balanced. Their distance may not reflect a lack of love. It may reflect fear, fear of vulnerability, fear of being fully seen, fear of losing emotional defenses that existed long before you entered their life. This is often where meaningful relationships become complicated. One person opens their heart more quickly. The other hesitates because the connection begins reflecting parts of themselves they have spent years avoiding. You may have become that mirror. You may have awakened the very place they usually hide from everyone else. Once something genuine has been awakened, it rarely disappears simply because someone avoids it. It continues working beneath the surface, quietly shaping thoughts, emotions, and decisions. What they have not yet resolved within themselves may still be influencing every step they take. People often describe this as confusion, mixed signals, poor timing, or fate. Yet very often, it is unresolved fear expressing itself in different ways. A person can care deeply while still running from what genuine closeness asks of them. They can experience real love while delaying the life that love requires. They can miss what stands before them simply because they are not yet prepared to live with that level of emotional honesty. But once something within them has truly awakened, it rarely returns to sleep. You may have entered their life to remind them what emotional truth feels like. Once that part of the heart has been touched, it remembers. Real encounters are never meaningless. If this connection carried no purpose, it would have ended cleanly. It would not continue echoing through memories, unexpected emotions, and quiet reminders that still feel alive today. That does not mean you should force anything to happen. It simply means there may still be movement beneath the surface that neither of you can fully see yet. There is a difference between forcing a locked door open and patiently understanding that every meaningful door opens only when the right moment arrives. Many people rush past this lesson. They mistake hope for weakness. Yet calm, grounded hope is not weakness at all. Sometimes it is simply intuition expressed through peace instead of fear. If thinking about this person brings more quiet certainty than panic, pay attention to that feeling. Calm often carries truth more clearly than anxiety ever can. At the same time, this path is not asking you to remain stuck. It is inviting you to become stronger within yourself. That may be the deepest purpose of this entire experience. Since this connection entered your life, perhaps you have noticed yourself changing. Things that once satisfied you no longer feel enough. Shallow attention feels empty. Half-hearted love becomes obvious. Mixed signals that you once tolerated now leave you feeling emotionally exhausted. That change matters. Sometimes a connection does not arrive to stay forever in its first form. Sometimes it arrives to awaken you, to reveal what your heart is truly capable of feeling, and to show you what no longer belongs in the life you are growing toward. That is why letting go feels so complicated. You are not only trying to understand another person, you are also trying to understand the version of yourself that was born through this experience. Through this connection, you discovered how deeply you can love. You discovered your capacity for presence, devotion, and emotional honesty. You also learned that emotional intensity alone is not always the same as genuine truth. Once those lessons become part of you, it becomes difficult to return to relationships that offer only surface-level connection. The greatest shift begins when you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and instead begin asking, "What is this experience teaching me about who I am becoming?" That single question has the power to transform pain into wisdom. Confusion slowly turns into direction. What once seemed like a story about another person gradually becomes a journey leading you back to yourself. Relationships like these rarely follow a straight path. They often revisit familiar patterns, but each return asks for greater awareness, deeper honesty, and stronger emotional maturity than before. What makes these experiences painful is not always the absence of love. More often, it is the difference in timing. One heart may already be ready to open, while the other remains surrounded by old fears, old wounds, and years of emotional self-protection. That is why meaningful connections rarely disappear completely. Even when life becomes busy and the world grows louder, they continue existing quietly beneath the surface, waiting until both hearts are ready to understand what they were always meant to teach. They rise when distractions fade. They become louder in silence. They appear when the heart can no longer avoid what it truly feels. There are moments when you quietly become a lasting presence in someone's mind, even if they never admit it aloud. Perhaps that is why certain signs feel stronger lately. Not to keep you trapped in longing, but to help you understand the difference between attachment and alignment. Attachment says, I need this person to feel okay. Alignment says, I am already becoming whole, and what truly belongs with me will meet me there. That single difference changes everything. The moment you stop chasing emotional certainty and begin standing firmly in your own clarity, something inside you starts to shift. The pressure begins to fade. The connection is no longer fueled by fear. Instead, it begins to breathe in a calmer and healthier way. That change is often felt long before it is spoken. It reveals itself through quiet awareness, presence, and a new sense of peace. Slowly, reality becomes clearer. Either the connection grows into something honest, or it reveals where it can no longer continue. Both outcomes matter because both lead you toward freedom. This is often the moment when fear begins to lose its influence. Old patterns weaken. The cycle of one person chasing while the other withdraws slowly starts to dissolve. As you choose growth, you stop feeding confusion. You stop mistaking uncertainty for love. You stop treating silence as proof of emotional depth. Instead, you begin longing for something clearer, healthier, and more genuine. That new standard speaks without words. It quietly says, if this connection is real, it must exist in reality. It must be built on honesty, intention, and accountability. Surprisingly, that silent message often reaches the other person more deeply than endless pursuit ever could. When you stop bending yourself to keep the connection alive, they are left alone with their own emotions, without relying on your effort, your reassurance, or your constant emotional support. That is when everything begins to change in a quiet but powerful way. Suddenly, there is space. Space where your effort once existed. Space where your reassurance once filled every gap. Space where your patience once covered uncertainty. Inside that space, truth begins revealing itself naturally. The possibility of losing you completely may become more real to them than they ever expected. Not through panic or drama, but through a quiet realization they can no longer ignore. Your role, however, is not to wait in uncertainty. It is not to remain suspended in hope, analyzing every silence, decoding every delay, or creating meaning from scattered pieces. Your responsibility is to remain rooted in self-respect while allowing life to reveal what is true. Real love is not something that survives only inside private emotions. It is something that can withstand honesty, distance, time, and reality. If they return, let it be because they are ready to meet you with sincerity, not simply because they miss your presence while remaining unchanged. And if they do not return, allow that truth to stand as well. A painful truth is still kinder than a hope that slowly causes you to lose yourself. You are being prepared for something deeper than fantasy. You are being prepared for clarity instead of endless guessing, for a love that can exist openly in real life instead of only in memory or imagination. As this understanding grows, another change begins within you. Thoughts of them may still appear, but they arrive differently now. There is less panic, less longing, less inner chaos, and more stillness, awareness, and acceptance. That is not emotional detachment. It is growth. It is your nervous system learning that it no longer has to chase in order to feel connected. When one person changes at that level, the entire dynamic begins to respond. Balance naturally seeks itself. If you stop chasing, something inevitably changes. If you stop begging life for answers and begin living as someone who already knows their worth, the emotional current between you shifts, not through force, but because reality naturally adjusts to the new person you have become. They may begin to experience your absence differently, not as punishment or rejection, but as a quiet presence that no longer demands anything from them. For someone who was accustomed to your emotional availability always being there, that experience can be deeply confronting. They are left alone with their own habits, their own silence, their own avoidance, and their own truth. Within that space, they may finally face what they have avoided for so long, the walls they built, the emotional distance they justified, the habits they relied upon, and the control they believed would keep them safe. Those defenses may have protected them once, but they also prevented them from experiencing the kind of connection they truly desired. To move forward, they would have to risk vulnerability. They would have to stop hiding behind confusion, emotional distance, and old patterns of self-protection. That is not an easy step. It requires genuine courage, the kind many people only discover when they realize they are about to lose something they never fully appreciated until it began slipping away. But your responsibility is not to rescue them. It is not to carry their healing, wait endlessly for their transformation, or abandon yourself while hoping they will change. Your responsibility is to honor yourself so completely that whatever happens next becomes clear without distortion. Whether this path leads to reunion or release, it should no longer have the power to break you. It should no longer make you lose yourself. That is one of the clearest signs of healing. You can care deeply while still remaining whole. You can experience love without losing your commitment to truth. You can hold hope without abandoning yourself in the process. There is an important difference between genuine emotional connection and losing yourself for someone else, and you are beginning to recognize that difference more clearly than ever before. There may still be unfinished meaning within this connection. Not every unresolved story is meant to end in permanent separation. At the same time, not every unfinished chapter is meant to become a lifelong relationship. Sometimes it simply means there are honest feelings that still need to be expressed. Words left unsaid do not simply disappear. Emotions that were never fully acknowledged do not fade away overnight. They remain beneath the surface until the moment arrives when they ask for courage. That courage may lead to an honest conversation. It may bring closure. It may even open the door to something entirely new that looks nothing like the relationship you once knew. Whatever direction it takes, it will require honesty from both people, not assumptions, not silence filled with wishful thinking, not fear disguised as emotional distance. It will require real honesty. Your own fear may quietly ask, can I trust what I already feel without needing constant reassurance? Their fear may ask, can I open my heart without falling back into old patterns of self-protection? These are not simple questions, but they are deeply human ones. Often, they begin moving quietly beneath the surface long before either person finds the courage to say them aloud. You may also notice that the idea of reunion feels different now. It is no longer driven by urgency or desperation. Instead, it feels calmer, more grounded, and more realistic. It becomes less about chasing a possibility and more about recognizing a truth that either naturally aligns or simply does not. That quiet shift changes everything about the way you approach love and relationships. True connections are not meant to keep you trapped in confusion or emotional suffering. Their deeper purpose is to guide you back to yourself. If communication eventually opens, allow it to happen naturally. Do not force it. Do not rush to fill every silence with imagined meaning. Let actions reveal intention. Let consistency reveal character. Let time expose what is genuine and what was only emotional intensity without lasting stability. If fear appears again, notice it without allowing it to take control. Fear is often nothing more than an echo of old experiences trying to protect you from uncertainty. But fear is not always speaking the truth. Instead, learn to pay attention to what your body is telling you, because your body often recognizes reality before your mind can fully explain it. When something is not right, your entire system reacts. Your chest feels tight, your breathing becomes shallow, your thoughts begin racing. You catch yourself overthinking every detail, trying to create safety through constant analysis. But when something is truly aligned, even if the future remains uncertain, there is a different feeling. There is more space within you, more steady breathing, more inner calm, more quiet confidence. That feeling is far more reliable than fantasy or wishful thinking. The next chapter of your life will not ask you to become more desperate. It will ask you to become more discerning. It will ask you to recognize the difference between chemistry and true compatibility, between longing and genuine alignment, between emotional intensity and the kind of emotional safety that can truly last. There is also a quiet strength that develops when you no longer depend on constant reassurance. You stop searching for signs every hour. You stop trying to interpret every silence. You stop asking other people to confirm what your own awareness already understands. Slowly, something inside you begins to settle. Not because you suddenly know exactly how everything will end, but because you finally know yourself with greater clarity. That clarity changes everything. You no longer feel the need to defend your feelings to people who cannot understand them. You no longer lower your standards simply to keep someone emotionally close. Real love does not require confusion as proof of its depth. It may challenge you, it may transform you, but it should never require you to abandon yourself. If this connection is meant to grow, it will grow through honesty. If it cannot exist within truth, then truth itself will eventually free you from what was never meant to continue. Either outcome becomes an act of healing rather than a loss. So keep moving forward. Keep becoming the person your experiences are shaping you into. Keep choosing clarity instead of confusion. Keep honoring the version of yourself that emerged because of this journey. That version of you did not appear by accident. Your awakening was not an accident. The awareness growing within you is not an accident. If this connection grows into something real, you will meet it from a place of strength instead of emotional hunger. And if it transforms into understanding rather than reunion, you will not be left empty. You will be left wiser, stronger, more peaceful, and more deeply rooted in yourself than ever before. Either way, you find your way back to yourself. And that return changes everything.